Hello there. What's going on, everyone? Today I'm bringing to you my what to buy first for the Rebel Alliance in Star Wars Armada. If you are brand new to Star Wars Armada or you're thinking about jumping into the game, this is a great place because I'm going to give to you my what to buy first and on a budget list for 2021, even though I'm technically recording this in the end of 2020. But this is going to be a ranked list of things that I think you should buy first if you're looking to make your dollar go as far as it can while trying to get a lot of value out of it. A lot has changed in Star Wars Armada since the arrival of the Clone Wars, and while those factions might be a little bit cheaper to start out with, and I have a how to play or a buyer's guide for the Clone Wars as well. Those factions have their own dedicated starters, but it's 3 ships for each faction, but you have to buy one for each faction you want to play, whereas for the original starter, you're getting two Rebel ships and 1 Imperial ship, so you have a little bit to actually play a 2-player game in this one. Plus, if you want to play Rebels, this is the one you're going to have to start with, because everybody needs a core set. A core set is going to have everything you need to get started playing the game, and we'll talk about this as well as what I think you should do next. If you guys are new here, I run giveaways all the time. I'm running one right now for the 12 Days of Life Day. 12 times throughout December, I am doing giveaways to anybody who has been a subscriber or left a comment. So you have to subscribe and leave a comment to have a chance to win. We're actually going to announce one of those winners at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, there's new giveaways running all the time. Also, if you want to learn more about Star Wars Armada, if you like this game, if you play the little starter introductory game in the core set and you want to learn more, I'll have links down in the video description. Lots of links down there. Be sure to check that out. Things like my Discord or my website, we have got a lot of more information. Consider this like a portal or a gateway to more information in the wider Armada community, as well as there's a lot of other games out there, and I talk about those as well. But on with the video, let's get this list going. So yes, you have to start out with the core set. You're going to get a Nebulon. You're also going to get a CR-90, so 2 very recognizable Rebel ships. Those are going to be small-based ships. You're also going to get 4 X-Wings. You can run them as generic X-Wings. You can run one of them as Luke Skywalker. So that's all pretty fun stuff to get you started. And of course, you're going to have an Imperial Victory class Star Destroyer and 4 TIE Fighters as well, or actually rather 6 TIE Fighters, so you can actually get a little bit of a starter game going. Now, a smaller game, because a full-size game of Armada is going to run 400 points, which is going to require a couple more ships per side. And so I'm going to talk about some of those first purchases to kind of get your game up to that 400-point standard, and what I think is going to give you great value. But you're also going to have dice that come in here, the movement tool, you're going to have asteroids and all the cardboard tokens that you need to play the game, also the other plastic tokens as well, the range tool, your command dials, speed dials, all of that. There's going to even be upgrade cards that come in here because the ships can be outfitted with additional types of turbo laser batteries and all kinds of very cool gadgets like that. So what should you get after the core set? Well, I want to at least open your minds to the possibility of getting another dice pack. These are super cheap, so I have it kind of high on this list. You will quickly realize that you don't get enough dice for all the situations you're likely to run into. And a dice pack is so cheap that I think it's a good investment for a lot of new players. Now, if you have friends who also play Armada, they may have some spare dice to hand out to you. I know if I have quite a few dice packs that a little bit more than I really need, so consider that also. But there's also a dice app for your phone that you might be able to want to consider, because then you can have all the dice you need on your phone. But some people don't really like rolling dice on a digital app because what if the battery runs out and things like that. So, definitely consider looking at a dice pack if you can find it. If not, maybe you've got a friend who's got extra dice, but just the dice that come with one starter aren't necessarily enough. With a lot of other games, and with the Clone Wars factions too, I tend to suggest multiple starters, and that one of the things that you get from that is extra dice that come with that 2nd or 3rd starter. But in the case of the Rebels and the Empire, you don't need more than the 1st starter. You just need the 1 starter, the 1 core set. And so in this case, maybe consider another dice pack. After that, moving on, while it's a large ship and slightly more expensive in that middle price range of about $39, I'm definitely going to suggest the HomeOne expansion as an option for your first buy. Now, let me caveat everything here with the rule of cool, or the rule of whatever is going to bring you some pleasure. You should definitely try and get that first. If you're a big fan of Rogue One and you want to get that MC-75 Profundity first, then by all means, you should get that first. What's going to influence your fun factor and something that you're really liking should kind of take priority here, because a lot of ships are viable. There's a lot of things, like there's nothing that's like you shouldn't get. Nothing is awful, nothing is terrible, but definitely you know, lean into what you really want and what your heart is telling you first, and let that take some precedence. But in the absence of all that, the HomeOne has a lot going for it. First off, it's a very recognizable ship. This was Admiral Akbar's ship from Return of the Jedi. It's an awesome ship. It led the Battle of Endor. It's also very recognizable. And it also happens to be a large base ship, so it's going to have a lot of presence on the battlefield. It will consume a lot of your points. And as a matter of fact, with just this ship and the core set, and as well as a couple of upgrades that you'll see in the upgrade card pack, and I'm going to talk about that next, you can get to a full 400-point game. So with this and just one more purchase, this will get you there. And so that's another very, very cool thing. Also, it's a very, very tanky ship. It's a very strong ship. It's hard to kill. It makes for a great, great, great flagship. It's also very iconic. So because it's so strong and defensive, it can fit into a lot of different builds, especially if you want to have your flagship be very much reinforced and survivable. Now, I talked about the upgrade card collection. This is definitely something that you're going to want as well. I don't have it ranked first, though, because it doesn't do as much when you only have the core set. So once you've got an extra ship or two, then all of a sudden all the cards you're going to get in the upgrade card collection are going to really have a lot more places to fit. So if you're not familiar with what the upgrade card collection is, this is one of the biggest things to ever hit Armada since its release. The upgrade card collection has every single upgrade card for every single expansion that the Rebels and the Empire ever had. And that's a lot. They're all resized, reprinted, had points adjustment where applicable, and had errata corrected where applicable. All that, it was basically fancy talk for it's got all the cards you're ever going to need. You know, from a certain point of view. All of the unique cards, it's only going to have one of. But almost all of the cards that you can have multiples of, it has 2 copies of. There's a few rare exceptions where some cards you have only 1 copy of. So for really large games, some players who have very, very vast fleets will maybe want to consider getting more than one upgrade card collection. But having one of these is a really, really important step for any Armada player looking to build a fleet. Because one of the problems that Star Wars Armada had in its first couple of years is that some really important upgrades, like a really, really powerful turbo laser upgrade or a really powerful ion cannon, might only come in one ship. And that was a problem because maybe you didn't want that ship. You shouldn't have to buy like a $30, $40, or $50 ship just for this one piece of cardboard that comes into it, so you can put it on a different ship and then leave the ship that you just bought is still in the box. And sometimes it might come in a Rebel ship, but maybe you're an Imperial player, or vice versa. You might come in in an Imperial ship, but you're a Rebel player. You don't want to have to do that. So. And that happened a lot. There was a lot of Rebel ships that were notorious for having a card that Imperial players had to go and then buy across the aisle for a ship that they weren't interested in just to get the upgrade card that came in there. This upgrade card collection completely erases that from being a problem. You won't need any of the upgrade cards. Once you buy this, you can take all the upgrade cards that come in the core set and in all the ships that you buy and just kind of set those aside. They're smaller upgrade cards. You're not going to need those anymore. They've changed all those little small upgrade cards to full-size cards. It's also going to make storage a little bit easier because now all of your cards are the same size, with the exception of the ship cards. The ship cards are still going to be extra large, but it seems like future versions of those ships are going to be back to the smaller size. Now, another thing that's great about this is this gives you all the commanders as well, because commanders are still considered upgrade cards. So you're going to have access to people like Admiral Akbar and Kirsta Agate and General Raikin and Mon Mothma and all of them. They're all coming here. So you're going to have so many options to outfit every ship you buy from here on out. The upgrade card collection is just an outstanding buy, and every Armada player should have one. Now, with that being said, let's move on to what next. I think the Rebel Transports is a fantastic buy. The Rebellion is kind of known for having a lot of smaller ships and using these hit-and-run tactics. And, well, the Rebel Transports are the smallest version of them. Now, the irony here is that while the Empire is known for having Star Destroyers, it actually has a lot of ships available for only $19.99 or $19.95 or that $20 price mark. Whereas this is pretty much the only one on this list that I'm going to put that's at the $20 price mark in the first half of this list. Whereas all the other small ships, you either already got them in the starter or they, for whatever reason, cost more than $20. But so this one's actually pretty cheap. This is a flotilla, and it's a support ship. Now, people look at Rebel transports and like, that's not a warship. Well, yeah, there's a version that really doesn't have any guns on it. Although there is one that's a little bit up-armed and refitted to have some guns on it. So it can shoot a little bit. But this is a ship that's going to support your fleet. And it's a flotilla, so it has some of its own rules as well. But this is a great support ship. And it actually runs 2 ships on a single base, so that's why there's 2 of them in here. It still only counts as kind of one ship. But think of it, because they're a little bit smaller than the other capital ships, so think of them as like flying together. But they're great support ships, and they fit into just about every fleet build you will ever do. Almost every type of fleet, whether you're going to go really bombers or a lot of squadrons, a lot of fighter squadrons, or a lot more ship firepower. All of it has a way to use these, and the Rebel transports are just fantastic. A lot of people like to run multiples of them, but it's not quite so important anymore. But having one really gives you a lot of options. Next up is the MC-30. The MC-30 is just a powerhouse of a ship. Now, this is also a small ship, but because of whatever reason, they decided to put this in a larger box and thus increase the price points a little bit. So, it costs a little bit more, about $10 more than the other small ships. And I guess maybe because there's a little bit more plastic in here because it's slightly larger, but it still is about the same size as most of the other small ships. But for whatever reason, this one ends up being a little more expensive. Now, that being said, it's an amazingly good ship. It works very, very well in this game. It kind of wants to get in close. It throws a lot of black dice on your opponent, and has, for being a moderately frail ship, it has an amazing level of survivability and damage avoidance built into it. So it's a really, really effective ship. And it used to be one of those cards you would buy multiples of for the upgrades. You don't really need to buy that many of them anymore. A lot of people will run 1 in a list, but some people will run 2. I don't think you really need to go more than 2, but I happen to have 4, and I have run them before, but I don't do it that often. But it's a very good ship, and with the changes to the evade defensive token, it's going to see some new life, and I think it's got a bright future ahead of it. But a really good ship that is still and always will be really good in this game. So I think even though it's a little on the expensive side, you kind of in that mid price point, the amount of tech and the excellence that it brings to the game, you're going to really see a powerhouse of a ship. If it can get in close and wreak havoc on the enemy, I think you'll really enjoy that. Next up, I think it's time to expand your fighters. You've got a couple of X-Wings already, and you know what? It's time to get some more squadrons and experiment with that a little bit. And the Squadron Packs are relatively cheap. Now, there's quite a few different Squadron Packs, but I think for the Rebels, the initial Rebel Fighter Squadron Pack is really, really important to get. You've got incredibly important and clutch type of squadrons in this pack. You're going to get 2 more X-Wings in here, and you don't really need that many more X-Wings. But what pushes this one over the top is the B-Wings, which are amazing. The B-Wings are one of the best squadrons in the game. And the A-Wings. The A-Wings, with their incredible speed, give you so much flexibility. The A-Wings are absolutely tremendous. And the Y-Wings are also really good, too. And the Y-Wings and the B-Wings team up to give you a really nice bomber presence. This squadron is just the total package. You got the X-Wings for protecting everybody else. You got the A-Wings for moving ahead, and the B-Wings are slow, but you put them out front and kind of once you get them in a position, they just wreak havoc. And the Y-Wings are kind of a blend of this a little bit more speed, but a little bit less firepower, but still work really well with the B-Wings. And of course, you get named unique versions of each of those squads as well in here, including Wedge Antilles for the X-Wing. But it's just overall really, really good stuff and a good foundation for your growing Rebel fleet. Every Rebel player is going to need these eventually, and this is a good time to kind of like by this point in buying stuff. I figure you've already played around with the 4 X-Wings you've got. Now it's time to grow that squadron presence a little bit. This makes for your like, I think, your best first squadron purchase. Next up, look, it's ugly, but it's good. It's really, really good. The Assault Frigate Mark II may be the ugliest ship in the game, and maybe one of the ugliest ships in Star Wars, at least from the perspective that it doesn't really look like a Star Wars ship. Right? It looks different. Now, they didn't design this ship. This was from the old Empire at War game, and I don't know where it first showed up, but the design has been around for years before Star Wars Armada came out with it. But it served as the first ship for the Rebels that was bigger than small, and it came out in the first extra wave of Star Wars Armada, and it was a medium-based ship. To this day, it's still the only medium-based ship that the Rebels have, and that does a lot of interesting things for this ship. Now, that being said, it's a medium-based ship. It still, costs about as much as the large-based ships, so its price point is a little bit higher. But if you can get over the looks, what this brings to the game is really, really nice. The points cost on the board is actually kind of low. It has a perfect blend of so many different aspects. It's a pretty good carrier. Not the best, but really good. It's really good at defense. It has a decent amount of hull, lots of shields, and a defensive retrofit, which means it's a very tanky ship. Has good anti-ship firepower, and with newer upgrades that have come out and that are available in the upgrade card pack, this thing can be outfitted to be extremely deadly. It also is capable of taking upgrades that give it the salvo mechanic, which is just a really nice ability as well. The Assault Frigate Mark II is kind of like this jack of all trades of this game, and I absolutely love it. It fits into just about every fleet, and in some fleets it exceeds expectations, like running with Admiral Akbar, who's a very, very fun Rebel commander to run. I really enjoy the Assault Frigate Mark II, and some of the changes to cards like Gunnery Team require it to fly a little bit differently, but it's still capable of doing very, very well. I absolutely love the way that this ship flies, and the only reason it's not higher, like it might even be a good first purchase to buy, is simply due to the fact that it doesn't look Star Wars. I'm a very visual gamer, and I have to include the rule of cool. And this one, it kind of hurts because it looks ugly, and it's almost like an eyesore to have on the table sometimes. But again, this is something that totally depends. Maybe you like the look of it, then maybe you get this one first. Maybe you really hate the look of it, or maybe you won't get this one at all. It's really up to you what's going to give you fun in the game. But even though I initially really didn't like the way this one looks, it is so darn effective in play that I'm willing to overlook its appearance. Next up, the Hammerheads. Now this is a unique type of pack because it has 2 ships in it. It has 2 Hammerhead corvettes, and look, they're pretty good. They're priced low as far as their game points cost, and they have the ability to work together, and and that's all great. What's a little frustrating if you're a player on a budget here is that you're paying for 2 small ships. You can't just buy them one at a time. So if you want maybe 3 of them, and by the way, 3 of them actually work really well together, you're stuck buying 4 because they come 2 in a pack. And they're priced at $40, which is, $20 for a small ship. So like the price is right. However, you're stuck having to buy 2 at a time. So that's usually not the most consumer-friendly type of packaging. And that's why this one ranks a little bit lower. Now, if you've seen Rogue One, or if you've actually seen a lot of Star Wars, this isn't exactly a new ship to be introduced to the game, but it was certainly made a lot more recognizable in Rogue One. And and so you might really like this ship, especially after you saw that movie. I know I was a lot more interested in getting this on the table after seeing Rogue One. And to that extent, I'm also going to put the Profundity next. This is a large base ship, and this might be your first ship you buy because I loved Rogue One. Who didn't? But I love this ship. It's a really good ship, and it was a lot of fun. I put this one a little bit farther down the list because I think it works a little bit best if you've got more small ship options, because one of the cool things that this ship can do is actually have a small based ship like a Corellian corvette or a Hammerhead that has a command value of 1, and there's only a few that can do that, and have it docked inside of it, and then it deploys it mid-game. It's a really fun thing to do, and one common tactic is to actually drop a Hammerhead, which at close range of an enemy ship, and kind of do that ramming thing. Basically, that scene that you saw from Rogue One, kind of an amalgam of 2 different scenes from that movie. But I think the best value in employing this comes after you have a better selection of small ships, and so like I feel like this one is. Can be a great flagship, much like the HomeOne can, but since the HomeOne doesn't kind of have a dependency on like doing better if it has Hammerheads or whatever, I kind of put this one a little bit farther back. Still, despite its little gimmick of dropping ships, it's not always run that way. It's a very good ship. It has very strong front arcs and side arcs. It's great at approaching an enemy ship or an enemy formation and just kind of ramming in, setting up that double arc shot. It's actually very survivable as well. It's a very well-rounded ship. Also, serves as a great flagship and does a lot of great things. But it's weird that the Rebels have so many different large base ships. They have 3 different large MC style ships, Mon Calamari ships, and like while this one is very good, I don't feel like if you've already got the HomeOne, you probably don't immediately need another large base ship. So that's why I kind of have this one a little bit farther in the middle. If we're looking at expanding our squadrons a little bit more, I think the Rebel Fighter 2 expansion is a good option to jump in right now. This one has some very interesting fighters in here. None are like super crucial, like certainly not as crucial as the basic ones you get in the Fighter 1 pack. But you get the Ghost, and you get Hera in the Ghost, which is a lot of fun. You're getting Z95s, which are also pretty interesting too. So and you're getting E-wings, which aren't that great, but they're not terrible. Like a lot of the squadrons in here are kind of in the middle, but there's some that are actually really good. Like the Z95s, being the cheapest squadron in the game, are really good at filling in points when you're trying to fill out a list and you don't have enough for another X-wing, but you want something. They're good for that. And Hera's really fun, but she's also very expensive to run in your games. But it's a good pack, and it has 8 different squadrons. Well, 4 different squadron types, 2 of each of them, and you can run a unique or a generic version of each. And then if you want to go a little further, the Rogues and Villains expansion pack has still 4 squadrons for the Rebels, but only 1 copy of each. So this one comes a little bit later. This is usually the last squadron pack I recommend to people because it's a dual faction pack. It's got 4 Rebel kind of Rogues and Villains. They're basically a special type of squadron that has only 1 ship as opposed to a three pack of multiples. And it also has 4 Imperial versions. And these kind of represent the smugglers, the scum and villainy, and bounty hunters and stuff of the galaxy. So you're going to get Han Solo and the Millennium Falcon in this one. You're going to get Dash Rendar. You're going to get, the Kyle, or Jan Ors, rather, and the HWK. You're going to get that sort of stuff. This one is a little lower because, again, you're only really, if you're a pure Rebel player, you're only going to be able to use half of this pack. And then also, one of the big advantages that this gave was that you had like Jan Ors had this intel ability that was really, really good, but it got changed when the Clone Wars came out and Armada got like a 1.5, a major rules update that kind of made that ability go from amazing and you must use it down to, well, it's still good, but it's just an option. You don't have to use it. So, its value went down a little bit, and you're only using half of the pack. I will throw out, though, if you're playing multiple factions, if you're playing both the Empire and Rebels, and you're building fleets for both of them, this pack's value goes way up because you're able to use all of it, and you're getting effectively 8 different squadrons in this pack as opposed to 4. Although only 1 copy of each one. But you're getting a lot of new stuff if you're playing both factions. Next up, the Liberty expansion. This is the MC-80 Liberty style, and it flies very different than the MC-80 HomeOne style, even though they're both Mon Calamari ships and they're both considered MC-80s. They're very different ships, and of course, obviously, they look different because this one has wings. But yes, the Liberty was that first ship that was destroyed by the Death Star 2 at the Battle of Endor. Spoilers! But yeah, it's also definitely a beloved ship by a lot of old fans, and we were very happy to see this one finally show up in this game when it did. This one flies and behaves very differently than a lot of other Rebel ships in that it kind of feels more like an Imperial class Star Destroyer, and that it flies directly at you. It has almost all of its guns pointed forward, and it has this huge front arc, very, very defensible from the front. It wants to be pointed at you, and it's going to demolish you if you're in front of it. But it is noticeably weaker on the sides, and that kind of flies a little differently than a lot of the other Rebel ships. Now, this is still a great ship if you have a maybe a flare for Mon Calamari ships, or this particular ship in general. There's nothing wrong with this being your first buy. But at this point in the list, maybe you've already got the other 2 MC ships. Like, at a certain point, you don't need that many large ships for the Rebellion. So I think it's important to have at least one. And really, it could go either way. It could be the HomeOne, it could be the Liberty, or it could be the Profundity. That's totally up to you. I think getting one as your first buy is an important thing, but if you're buying all 3, I'd probably put this one down farther at the bottom. Now, this one used to be much higher, and a big reason for this one being down lower now is because the upgrades that would come with this pack aren't as important anymore, because of the upgrade card kit. This was one of those, this was like the only place to get cards like Spinal Armament, which increase your dice in the front, that Imperial players really wanted to have, because they also wanted to do that to those Star Destroyers that handle the same way. But now we don't have to buy unnecessary copies of the Liberty anymore just to get upgrade cards that only come with it, because we've got that upgrade card collection, and yes, you do get 2, count them, 2 copies of Spinal Armament in that upgrade card collection. So this one's a little bit less crucial. Moving farther away, we get down the list, we get the Phoenix Home. This one you saw in Star Wars Rebels, but it's also a Pelta that is often seen in the Clone Wars. It's a Clone Wars era ship that the Rebels are still using at this point. Of course, it was Star Wars Rebels' inclusion of this ship that prompted it to show up in Star Wars Armada under the Rebel Alliance banner. This one does have the wings open. At this point yet, we haven't seen the model for the Clone Wars version of it, but I think that one might look slightly different. But right now, this one would have been a little bit higher on the list, maybe last year, but this one's changed a little bit, and I'll talk about why. It's not a terrible ship, but I kind of have this on one of the last purchases that maybe a new player would get. First off, it's just a small base ship like a lot of the other Rebel ships, but it's still priced more than that $20 price point. This one's at closer to the $30 price point, and for a small base ship, it's like, and if you're on a budget, it's harder to recommend small ships for $30 unless they're really, really good. And this one isn't, in my opinion, really, really good. It's okay, and it's good at some things. It's okay at being a flagship. If you're running only small ships, it's okay at being a support vessel because it has fleet command. Now, this used to be a big, big deal for the Rebels because it was the only way that they could get the fleet command, which was a really nice fleet-wide support ability. However, some new cards have come out now, and you'll be able to get one of those in the upgrade card pack, which grants a CR-90 Corvette a limited version of that same ability of the fleet command. Basically, they can, for one turn, they can use fleet command for the whole fleet. And so now all of a sudden, the Phoenix Home's one thing that was kind of its claim to fame is not really its claim to fame anymore. Granted, it's still good at doing fleet support, but it's not the only way you can get that. And hey, a CR-90 you've already got because you've already got one in the core set, and if you've already picked up the upgrade card collection, well, your need for this ship now goes down tremendously. So I kind of have this one lower on the list. Last, look, it's certainly cool. It's certainly cool, right? Or it's not really last, but it's one of we're kind of approaching the bottom now. The Starhawk, it's $80, and that's the only reason why I have it this far down, right? It's an expensive ship. It's the most expensive large ship in the game. It's the most expensive expansion that the Rebels have and probably ever will have. It's massively large. It's a beautiful hunk of plastic, and you're going to love it if you can afford it. And since this video keeps budget in mind, you probably don't want to get this one right away because you might be broke for a little while afterwards. It's an expensive ship. Now, that being said, it's the Starhawk. It may appeal to you. If you've read the Aftermath trilogy, if you've played Star Wars Squadrons, you might really be a fan of the Starhawk. And if so, maybe you should get it much sooner. As a matter of fact, some people might jump into Star Wars Armada. This may be the first ship they get. And hey, if you do, you probably don't need those other Mon Calamari ships. You've got a much bigger, badder ship. This is the biggest, baddest ship the Rebel Alliance has ever seen. And technically, this is more of a New Republic ship, but we'll let that slide for right now. The Rebels are borrowing it, okay? Alternate timeline. But yes, the Starhawk is absolutely magnificent. And cool little factoid about this, prior to this physical model of this ship showing up in Star Wars Armada, its design was actually unknown. It had only been talked about in the books, and we had basically the idea that it was a large ship and was a hatchet-based front. So we had some kind of idea that it had kind of that Nebulon kind of style front, and that it was made out of old Star Destroyers and all this stuff. We had a description of it, but nobody had ever seen it before. So Fantasy Flight was actually the first ones to bring us the physical description of the Starhawk. And it's a really honking ship. It's got 14 hull. It's got lots and lots of shields. It's got this magnetic super weapon that can slow ships down even to speed 0 if need be. It's a really cool ship, but it's also $80. Look, if you're able to get one, you're gonna have fun with it. Its only really weakness is that it's slow, and it can be hard to actually force an engagement with somebody else. But you're probably not going to lose that engagement. Unless, of course, you go toe-to-toe, maybe with a Super Star Destroyer by yourself. All right. As we do approach the bottom of the list, we'll be talking about some things that give you a lot less benefit. The CR-90 Corellian Corvette expansion used to be higher on the list because of some upgrades that came with it that you could only get here. But the upgrade card collection has rendered that obsolete. Now you're going to get all those upgrades in the upgrade card collection already. And the only reason to buy a CR-90 Corvette is if you want another one. Now, there's some pros here. First off, it's a small ship that only costs $20. And that's pretty cool. But you've already got one. So like I put it kind of low on the list. However, in this case, a lot of lists can function with multiple CR-90 Corvettes. As a matter of fact, I've seen some lists that run lots and lots of CR-90 Corvettes, and that can be pretty cool. The CR-90 is a capable ship. You can fit several of them in a list, and they're kind of versatile. They find an easy way to fit into a lot of different list designs. That being said, not every list is going to run multiples of them, and if you buy this earlier, you're not getting anything new, so I don't really feel like it gives you a whole lot. But if you're doing some list building designs, you might easily find yourself like, you know what, I really would like to run like 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 Corellian Corvettes. And if so, you know what, the price is right for them. There are 2 also campaign expansions, and I talked about these in my Imperial video as well. The Corellian Conflict and then Rebellion in the Rim are both campaign expansions. This is really largely going to be up to you as an individual. If you're interested in running campaigns, and what those are the prolonged sessions where you will form a team and somebody else will form a team, and you guys will each build fleets. You'll challenge each other and then mark a map, and it happens week after week after week. You continue with the same fleet, losing ships or upgrading ships, gaining points, gaining fleet points and growing your fleet, and then eventually having this massive battle to kind of determine which team won, the Rebels or the Empire. And they both kind of work in a very similar fashion. They have some differences, with their campaigns. Rebellion in the Rim lets you design a custom commander, for example. But some people will love that and some people won't, and that's really up to you. What makes these kind of lower on the list is that you're not getting any new plastic in either of these boxes. These are just cardboard boxes only. You're going to get just maps and cards. But there's something to be gained, even if you are not interested in in the campaigns, because they have new squadrons. They also have some new objectives. And that much is pretty cool. You're going to get new objectives and new squadrons in both of these packs. The Rebellion in the Rim box also came with new upgrade cards, but you're probably not going to need those because you've already got the upgrade card collection. But then again, you can always use multiples and extras if you wanted more than 2 of something. Maybe you get the third or 4th one in one of these boxes. That still works. And the squadrons you're going to get in here are pretty cool because you're not going to get those squadrons anywhere else, but they're not actual squadrons. They're just alternate cards and different ways to run squadrons that you already have, and that's something that can actually be pretty cool. But Again, this is where you buy these on this list is largely going to depend on how likely you are to play a campaign or how competitive you are, and if you really want those new objective cards to change the competitive game. And then the very last thing on this list is the Nebulon B frigate. Objectively, I do love this ship, and I routinely run multiple Nebulons, but to be fair, it's not really a good type of fleet. The Nebulon is a ship that's all right, but most fleets only ever need one, and you only have one. You already have one in the core set. You're not getting any new cards in here. Originally, this was a little bit higher in rank because it came with a couple of upgrade cards that you could only get in here. However, now you're getting those in the upgrade card pack, and you don't really need this particular expansion anymore. So I'm not really, you know, I can't really advocate for new players to buy multiple Nebulons until the point like that you decide, hey, you know what, I've got everything. I want to try and run, you know, 5 Nebulons with Admiral Akbar and just see how that works. It's not going to do great, but it's fun, you know. So like, you know, again, like I said, I'm going back to the beginning. There's nothing that's a bad purchase. Even the very last thing on my list is one of my favorite ships. It's just there's certain orders that are a little bit more optimal. I hope you guys found this list helpful. That is my list of what to buy first for the Rebel Alliance and Star Wars Armada for 2021. I hopefully you know something here was useful to you. If you found it helpful, I invite you to click that subscribe button, leave a comment, let me know what you think down in the comments section. That is going to enter you to have a chance to win the giveaways that I run all the time. I'm going to announce one right now. As a matter of fact, today's winner is going to win the promo card for the Empire. And I know there's irony, right, that I'm running an Imperial giveaway during a Rebel one. Well, I did the same thing for the other video, but this one's going to be an alternate art Boba Fett card. So if you're interested in winning giveaways like this, you just got to be a subscriber and leave a comment. But today's winner is going to be Janos Z. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but congratulations, Janos. All you have to do is shoot me an email. You'll find that on the back end of my channel, and I'll get your details and we'll get you squared away. And it's as simple as that. There are plenty more chances to win. You just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment. And also, if you like the video, go ahead and share it. Give it a thumbs up. Check out some of the links in the description below. We've got t-shirts. We've got masks. We've got bags. We've got socks. We've got gator necks. We've got all kinds of stuff like that. It's going to help support the channel. There's also links to my Discord if you want to learn more about the game. That's a great place to get in, meet some friends, ask some questions, get pointed to more and more information about Star Wars Armada. I've also archived a lot of my videos down there that are specific battle reports if you want to watch some games being played, or certain like learning and tutorial and instructional videos are archived there as well. But I'll put some more links down over here at the end of the video as well. And big thanks to my patrons. You guys are absolutely amazing. I could not do this without you. So thank you so much. If you're interested in becoming a patron, there was also links for that in the video description. I want to thank you guys so much for your continued support. Thank you for watching. And as always, have a great day.